I am a 19-year-old female and recently attended a neighborhood party with my mom, where I met a 20-year-old man. We were similar in age, chatted, and made small talk in a very friendly manner. I was not flirting at all. Later, he found my Instagram and started messaging me about how much he enjoyed hanging out with me. I'm pretty sure he's hitting on me. How do I come across as friendly and not flirty? Most of the time, when I meet a single man, he tries asking me out. I talk to men the same way I talk to women, with the same intention of being friends. I smile, try to hold the conversation, and ask questions. I also use words like dude and bro to emphasize friendship, but clearly, that's not enough. Any tips to further convey, I'm not interested in a relationship besides just lying and saying I have a boyfriend? I understand that guys will hit on me if they're interested, but I'm asking how to come across as unavailable to date. Are there any subtle things I can include in a conversation to discourage a guy from asking me out? I'm a computer science major and would like friends to study with for my classes. Most computer science majors I encounter are guys, so I want guy friends. Story 1. No couples ever got together without one or the other trying. If you're not interested, just say you're not interested. Simple as that. Maybe you're a cool, good-looking girl that men are drawn to. It's hard to pass up the opportunity and at least try. I've failed many more times than I've succeeded, but we have to try. Story 2. If someone is interested in you, there's nothing you can do. If there's a guy you like, are you not going to try to pursue him? Story 3. Sorry, but they miss 100% of the shots they don't take. If they find you attractive and want to see where this can go, they're going to take their chance. You could hold it against them, but then again, one of these days someone will do it, and you'll be glad they did or they won't, and you'll wish they had. You don't really get to pick who makes an initial approach. Just make it clear that you have no interest and hope they let it go at that. I'm not saying this cultural phenomenon can't be reformed, but right now, it is what it is, however awkward and uncomfortable it may be for an attractive woman who didn't do anything to hint that they reciprocate. You have my sympathies. Story 4. How would a man who you are interested in and would like to try a relationship with interact with you in a friendly way just to be friends the same way he does with men, to definitely state to you that he is not interested in a relationship? Story 5. This is a generalization for most, not all, young men. I also speak from some personal experience from my younger years. A lot of young guys don't get much attention from women outside of family, work, friends, or similar situations. Most young men don't have truly platonic friendships with women outside of those situations I just mentioned. Also, many young guys really desire romantic or physical companionship. So when they do get attention from a woman outside of those circles, and they are attracted to her, they want to follow up and take a chance, regardless of whether the encounter had any romantic connotations or not. Often, young men are so desperate they can't even tell if there was any romantic interest, and they just hope their advances work out. It doesn't help that nearly every piece of media they saw growing up has the main male character getting with their respective romantic interest in the end. Everyone sees themselves as the main character of their own story, of course. They have not learned that we are all just people walking around, and there is no main character. Unfortunately, men have to learn through experience that women may just talk to them and not be romantically interested. When it comes to a woman turning a man down, there's generally, in my opinion, one of two methods: the passive no and the hard no. A passive no is some form of deflecting or sidestepping, avoiding plainly laying it out for them. I understand the use of this, as people do not like confrontation, hurting others' feelings directly, or the possibility of the guy getting angry. Although some guys are so desperate they don't recognize or even see the passive no. They basically convince themselves, oh, she's just busy this weekend. I'll ask her out another time, without recognizing that if she really wanted to hang out, she would have suggested another date or time that would work. I recommend that if after 2 or 3 passive no's at most, you go for the hard no. A hard no doesn't necessarily mean being mean or confrontational, unless it gets to that point. It can be gentle but firm, direct, and not open to interpretation. You'll both be better off in the long run, and he can be one step closer to reading the situation better. Unfortunately, this is basically the situation of desperate young men around social young women. Story 6. Maybe you could try telling them you are not interested if you feel they are flirting. How many posts would this subreddit receive if people just spoke directly? Story 7. Men don't have the luxury of passing on chances for dates unless they're already taken. You should always assume that these situations will play out like this. Story 8. You cannot control how other people act. They are being proactive in talking to you, not just responding to your apparent flirting. Story 9. Don't be subtle. Men don't do subtle. But don't be presumptive either. You can't just say, I have a boyfriend, without looking bad if he was just being friendly and not hitting on you. Just maintain the friendship until he wants to take it to a non-friend level. If you're not interested, tell him, I like our friendship, but I'm not interested in more than that, and I don't see that changing. I hope that doesn't mean the end of our friendship. Be prepared to lose friends who only wanted more than a friendship or less if they were just looking for something casual. Story 10. Men are going to take their chances. It's good they have the confidence to do so. Otherwise, civilization would have died out. But you do have the option of not replying. Story 11. I honestly do not understand what is so complicated. Say you are not interested in dating. Simple. Most people want a romantic relationship in life, and it never happens unless one asks the other. If you do not want a romantic relationship, just say so. It is not hard. Use your words. Story 12. Over 90% of the time when I meet a single man, he tries asking me out. This is a wild exaggeration unless you live on an island with no gay men. Story 13. Hints and subtleties will not work. I'll give a disclaimer that I do not believe men and women can't be friends. That being said, men approaching women trying to hang out or do things with them are almost never doing so with purely platonic intentions, especially when they are young and single. It doesn't matter if the statement enrages you. I've demonstrated this to many women with absolute accuracy. Don't be naive. Be explicit in saying, I'm not interested in anything other than friendship with you. The reason for this is that if you click, this is the kind of thing single people want in a partner. It's also what cheaters look for in a side person or potential replacement. How many times have you heard couples refer to each other as my best friend? It's different if you already know the person and have established yourselves as friends. They might want to catch up, but you still have to be on your guard, whether man or woman. A person for whom you fit the description of a potential mate is someone you need to remind that you're just friends. People catch feelings, and a new person introducing themselves isn't likely to pursue continued one-on-one contact with purely platonic intent. This isn't some trick people play. It's simply mammals in the wild trying to pair up and find mates. We have higher thought processes, but we're still animals. It's strange that people try so hard to ignore these basic concepts of social interaction. People socialize largely to find partners. The longer they're in a partnership, the less they will socialize with new people, especially those in their potential dating pool. Every time I see people try to pretend this isn't the case, they find out that this person is trying to woo them. Story 14. Unfortunately, men are often so attention-starved that simply having your attention as a friend sends off the signal of, this is your chance. In our primitive brains, I work at an office with around 100 people I can come in contact with. Out of that 100, only 2 females engage with men and women the same way. And wouldn't you know it, those 2 are hit on constantly. In today's world, we have so few opportunities to connect that it feels almost profound when someone gives you their direct attention. Story 15. This is more of a men's problem as well. Most men don't get much attention from women, and even if they do, they usually have to initiate things. So, even the smallest interaction for us might lead us to think there is something special going on. Speaking from personal experience and observation. Story 16. Are there some subtle things I can include in a conversation to ward off a guy from asking me out? No. The best you can do is be nice and honest but direct. Story 17. If you're friendly and outgoing, there's nothing you can do. I used to have the same issue where my friendliness was sometimes mistaken for flirting. No, I'm just chatty. The 70-year-old lady in the store doesn't get mixed signals when I talk about which sourdough to buy. Maybe only talk to 70-year-old women if you aren't comfortable politely turning down men. Story 18. It sounds like you're quite attractive. So this is a situation you'll need to embrace and become very skilled at de-escalating in a healthy way. Many men don't often have the chance to engage in meaningful conversations with young women, and when they do, especially if they're single and lonely in the intimacy department, they see it as an opportunity to try. As we're often told by our male friends, if you like her, then at least try. What's the worst that could happen? She says no, and you're back where you started. If you never ask, you'll never know. That's what's happening here. You just need a good reason for why you're not interested, something genuine and appropriate like, I think I'm just not into you that way. Honestly, I thought we were cool friends and that was the vibe I got. I'm really sorry if I made you feel like I was hitting on you. It's hard as a girl to be nice and funny without giving the wrong impression. Maybe you can help me with that and also be my friend. If they seem creepy about asking you out, I would let it go because they might not be able to switch back to friend mode like I do. They could end up endlessly trying to escape the friend zone, which could be annoying. So choose your path wisely. Best of luck. Story 19. To appear friendly and not flirty, don't compliment my looks. Touch me, wink, or apply lipstick while staring into my eyes and leaning in. Don't ask me out. Outside of that and other obvious things, I won't assume you are flirting. That said, someone I'm attracted to and who seems like a kind, friendly person will definitely get my attention, regardless of those signs. Story 20. You've got to work in that you're not trying to date anyone or convey kindly that they're not your type. If a guy is interested, he's very likely to show his interest. Most men are more in need of romance or intimacy than additional friendship. So unless they lack confidence or have better options, they will express their interest in any woman who shows them kindness. Many women treat men rather coldly to avoid this behavior. Also, you might consider that you're an unconscious flirt. You can't really talk to men the same way you talk to women, as it often comes off as flirting. Story 21. I saw your edit, and to answer your question, just be honest. If he asks you, say, I'm not interested in a relationship right now, sorry. Or you can lie and say, I have a boyfriend. If he can't respect that, then just tell him to leave you alone, honestly. You need to have the courage to tell a guy you're not interested. Story 22. If telling him directly isn't an option, maintain maximum distance, respond to his messages infrequently, use the word friend every time he gets flirtatious, talk about an imaginary boyfriend, or ask him for dating advice about a date you're going on. I'm a cheerful, bubbly person, and men often interpret that as interest. Since I don't want to hurt their feelings, mine end up getting trampled over. So, I have developed these techniques to save my sanity and avoid trying to please everyone. Good luck. Story 23. Men have very few positive interactions with women in their personal lives. So unfortunately, many men will misinterpret friendliness, especially at your age. Story 24. Men often default to she talked to me, so that means she wants me. It's not a you thing, it's a him thing. Sometimes the only way to avoid that is to just not talk to men at all. Story 25. How do I come off as friendly and not flirty when I meet men? Here's the thing young, attractive women need to learn. You don't. Men are going to see what they want to see. He did not think you were flirting. He wanted you to be flirting. Any tips to further convey, I'm not interested in a relationship besides just lying and saying I have a boyfriend? Men don't do subtle. You will probably have to just lie and say you have a boyfriend or something similar. You have to be very clear that you are not available, and even that might not be enough sometimes. This is just what it takes for men to get dates. Men have to just keep looking for opportunities and err on the side of, she's interested. Men who err on the side of, she's just being friendly don't get dates. The other problem you're going to run into is men just walking away when you tell them you're unavailable. They're not going to waste their time. Story 26. Best thing you can do is tell him you aren't interested or not dating right now. As much as it sounds bad, setting boundaries and enforcing them is better than setting boundaries and expecting people to follow them. Story 27. Don't touch them when you talk or laugh at a joke. If they compliment you, say a quick thank you and move on instead of dragging it out. Just say, oh, thanks, and then talk about something different. Once you get to know him more and make it clear you aren't there for that, you can maybe do that. Perhaps tell the guy you have a boyfriend and talk about him in a positive light often. Story 28. That's going to be very difficult. There are guys out there that will take friendship, but most will want more. Maybe go after gay guys instead. Story 29. It's like if you give a mouse a cookie. If you show a man some kindness, he'll fall head over heels. Story 30. You can't. He most likely has rarely, if ever, had a girl express any interest in him, even something as simple as just having a conversation, and likely doesn't want to risk missing a possible opportunity for a deeper connection with someone. I didn't have a deep connection with anybody, much less girls, until I was with my first girlfriend at 19. Since that relationship ended, I haven't had any deeper connection like that since. I'll even go so far as to say it's not unlikely that you're the first girl he's had a legitimate conversation with. Story 31. If you have a significant other, mention them casually in conversation. Unfortunately, some men won't care, but most will refrain from trying to hit on you after that. Sadly, many women feel they must be cold to prevent men from misunderstanding their friendliness. This means you can't treat us like human beings without some men thinking you are interested in them. Personally, I don't appreciate when women categorize me into a relationship role before they've even met me. I don't want to be slotted into an existing male friend role, just as you wouldn't want to fill a girlfriend or friends with benefits role for a guy. It makes me feel like she's not genuinely engaging with me, but rather wants me to fulfill a function. Story 32. Young men are usually so starved for female attention that friendliness is often mistaken for her being interested. This doesn't happen often, so they want to see where it goes. Just let the guy down gently. Story 33. Thus, I want guy friends. Not strictly possible. The men who cluster around you are necessarily on some level there because they want to have a romantic relationship with you. Any tips to further convey, I'm not interested in a relationship besides just lying and saying I have a boyfriend? That's the funny part, you don't. Men don't exactly have the same social system women do, which leads to situations where men will not be able to understand you. Even if you're being direct and literal, they'll think you're giving them mixed signals or some other nonsense. There's no reward for just participating when it comes to finding someone to spend the rest of your life with, so most men are going to try, and if you're not direct and explicit about what you mean, they won't get it. When we say men are logical, we're not saying they're smart, we're saying they're often not perceptive. Things like body language and tone are subjective and confusing, so they tend to ignore it because it seems unclear and constructed. As a result, I smile, try holding the conversation, and ask questions. I also use the word dude, bro, to emphasize friendship, but clearly, that's not enough. Why would that remotely indicate you don't want anything other than friendship? I think I can speak for most men, especially most single men, when I say that I can't remember the last time a woman smiled at me or wanted to be near me or wanted to have a conversation other than what they're obligated to have because of their job. So a lot of chronically lonely guys who actually get that response from a woman are legitimately going to be clueless about how to behave and think you're inviting them to ask them out. Which is what it comes down to. Most men want to date you. They're going to try and ask you out, and you're going to have to get used to declining them. Or don't. A lot of people have lost track of the fact that a date was never intended to be some sort of promise for a relationship. It's just an informal meeting between two people to see if there's any chemistry. You can absolutely balance a boyfriend and a computer science degree, and having one around the house or apartment who's receptive to what you actually want and need could be beneficial. My only advice is to not date within your degree. Story 34. How do I come off as unavailable to date? Don't engage with them on a personal level. Only communicate when necessary. Story 35. For a large portion of men looking for someone special, I suspect there isn't really anything you can do about it. Your niceness will often be misinterpreted as interest, and they will make their move. Story 36. Over 90% of the time when I meet a single man, he tries asking me out. That's a problem for both men and women. No one likes this, but no one has found a viable alternative either. I talk to men the same way I talk to women, with the same intentions, to be friends. That's probably your mistake right there. Women tend to be very familiar with one another because there's rarely any expectation of romantic interest. If you are the same way with guys, they're going to think there's romantic interest. Edit. I understand that guys will approach me if they are interested. I'm asking, how do I come off as unavailable to date? Consider making choices that might signal disinterest, such as unconventional fashion choices or certain accessories, if you are serious about this. Story 37. A lot of men think that when a woman is being very nice and genuinely interested in them, it means the woman likes them. In reality, many women are just nice for no reason. I made the same mistake in the past and have learned not to expect anything without very clear signs. Signs a woman likes you. 1. She touches you a lot, usually your arm, but it can be your hand or hair. She looks at your eyes and then lips in that order, sometimes repeatedly. She genuinely wants to hang out with you alone, not in a friend group, but singles you out and asks for your time. She's into you. In text messages, she replies instantly or extremely fast and starts conversations with you, asking things about you and being genuinely interested in you. Story 38. There's a reason why it's been a saying for a long time that men and women can't simply be friends. Men are always going to have the sexual drive in their minds, mostly unconscious but also conscious. One of the main drives in life is reproduction, so you have to expect that to be a significant factor, especially as a female. You can be as friendly and non-flirty as you want. It doesn't mean guys won't want to become more intimate with you. Enjoy this female advantage for what it is. Men don't have it, so learn to master it and appreciate its potential benefits. Story 39. Men and women can't be friends. It's nearly impossible for two attractive people to have only a platonic relationship. He's just waiting patiently for his chance. Story 40. Why do you want to ward off people from asking you out? He won't know whether you're interested or not if he doesn't ask. And you're allowed to decline, that's it. Story 41. I think it's difficult on both ends. Women who only want to come off as friendly without actually being a friend might be hard for a relationship-starved male to handle as well. If only there was a way for the two of you to work this out as mature adults. Story 42. People will approach you for being friendly, and I don't see anything wrong with that. No one can read your mind. Are you unavailable to date or not interested in that person? Either way, make it clear. I have talked to girls at parties or gatherings where they would be upfront that they are not interested in dating. They just got out of relationships or whatever. I really don't care and just want to have a friendly conversation. Story 43. How do I come across as unavailable to date? Are there subtle things I can include in a conversation to discourage someone from asking me out? Body language is important. A closed stance with arms folded can help. Otherwise, simply end the conversation when you no longer wish to talk. Story 44. I know what you're talking about. It's a delicate balance when going down this particular road. On one hand, you don't want to insult the young man who is obviously interested in you. On the other hand, you don't want to date anyone, actually. In my experience, I have learned how to tell someone you're not interested without hurting their feelings. Be honest with him and tell him that you don't want to date anyone. It's nothing personal. It has nothing to do with him. You're just taking a break from dating for the time being. If you're sincere enough when you say that, he walks away with his pride still intact and his fear of rejection subsides a bit. You have been honest with someone about a subject you dread and did it with class and style. It's really tricky when having that discussion. The secret is to wait for them to do something and then tell them. Doing it before they ask is not advisable. Story 45. An imaginary long-distance boyfriend is useful for signaling unavailability, but you need to be consistent and tell everyone the same story. Story 46. In conversations, you can subtly indicate that you're not looking for anything beyond friendship. For example, you might mention that you're focused on your studies or personal projects and not interested in dating right now. This can be a casual way to set the tone without making it awkward. Story 47. As a result, I smile, try holding the conversation, and ask questions. I also use the words dude and bro. Most of these guys have trouble getting a woman to give anything more than a one-word response when they're explicitly dating. Story 48. It's not your fault. There will always be guys who do this. He made his move. If you're not interested, then just ignore him or say, hey, I am sorry that you got the wrong impression, but I just see you as a friend. Story 49. Communication is best done clearly, not subtly. You cannot control other people's reactions. If you don't like those reactions, communicate why or remove yourself from the situation. All of this presupposes the other person is respectful of the boundaries you set. When that is not the case, you should have a backup option for self-defense. Story 50. Honestly, there's not much you can do, unfortunately. It's possible he's just being friendly too, but you'll never know for sure until he asks you out. If he does, just let him down easy and say, "Sorry, I hope I didn't give off the impression I was interested in you." Story 51. Maybe he didn't think you were flirting. Honestly, a decent conversation with a pretty girl is enough to ask her out. Just say you're not interested. Also, tell him to be more subtle next time because paragraphs are too much. Story 52. Jesus Christ, the guy met you and liked you. Add that one to the list, boys. Do not randomly like women you meet in casual settings. Got it. There are going to have to be arranged marriages in the West before long. Story 53. I think if a guy likes being around you, even if you say you're not interested, he'll keep trying to change your mind. Story 54. Well, you must be super hot. You have to go to the number. It's easier to say I have somebody and so on. Your burden in life may be that you are more attractive than most. There are worse fates in life. You are young, it's all new. But yes, I say it could be worse. Story 55. To be honest, you are assuming he is flirting with you. It's just as likely he is trying to be friends. The short answer is there isn't much you can do unless someone makes a move, at which point you gently inform them that you aren't interested. I understand your apprehension. The only way I have maintained some of my friendships with women is by mentioning my wife or kids early and removing that suspicion. But maybe give the guy a chance to just be friends. Story 56. Tell them you're already taken. No physical interaction. No meetups. Just ghost. If you happen to run into each other, cool. But nothing intentional. Like, I told my boyfriend about you. He thinks you're funny. And walk. That, or put a ring on it and ask them how much they like the ring. Promise ring, engagement ring, whatever. Story 57. I mean, the easy one is when you talk to a guy you are not interested in, especially if it's someone you don't see often. Just say you have a boyfriend, like, yeah, my boyfriend likes this thing you just mentioned too. It won't stop the really persistent ones, but about 80% of guys will back off after that. Or, like the other comment said, just start the conversation by saying that this is purely platonic. If they are cool, they will understand. Story 58. Men are usually interested in objects and not people. They get confused when you appear to want to talk to them. Since they like objects, if they can't identify the object you are interested in that is prompting you to talk to them, they assume they are the object you are interested in. If you start talking to me about the Olympics, you can be as friendly as you want as long as your interest stays on the Olympics so that I can keep identifying that as the reason you are engaged. Since women often relate more, at least more than men, to people, we misunderstand being related to as interest since we connect platonically through things and not directly to people. That's also why a group of guys that just met can become instant friends if they all already connect to the same thing. They start out half-connected already and just need to compare things. The internet is full of memes of guys digging holes on the beach. To point out the difference, guys typically won't mention that they want male friends because they are a computer science major. They will talk about computers and not really care if anyone talks to them until they hear someone talk about computers. Then they will want to talk about computers. Story 59. That must get exhausting. If you're not touching or letting him touch you and not engaging in romantic banter, then you are going to have to be very clear. My friend used to wear a ring when she went to work out, and it only helped sometimes. Even if she said it was from her boyfriend, some guys still persisted. If they like someone, they can interpret friendliness as a chance. So, you have to mention early in the conversation, though not right away because that's unnatural and you might actually find yourself interested. But as soon as you are sure it's just friendship, mention your plans to hang out with your boyfriend or go on a date or something. It isn't true if you're single, but you don't owe him your life history. If you end up being close friends later, you can tell him the truth if you want and why you had to do it. That friend also used to say she's not interested in seeing anyone at the moment. She's working on herself. But guys tended to hear, oh, but later she will be ready for me. So just tell a white lie if you have to. Then you can hopefully go about the world without so much unwelcome attention. Don't think that this is necessarily all you're doing. Guys are just interested in dates, and it's not your fault or responsibility. The regular guys can express interest and be turned down, and in neither case make it weird. It's just the overeager ones who can be a real hassle. Story 60. Throw in a story about your boyfriend and how great he is. If you become friends, you can come clean, but emphasize that you tell all guys that, so you can take dating off the table and just make friends. Story 61. The only real answer here is that you need to practice communicating directly. When you feel like someone is hitting on you, you need to set accurate expectations for what you want from them. If you actually want to retain someone as a friend, you also need to do it kindly and understandingly. This might sound like I'm playing hard to get, but I'm not looking for a boyfriend right now, just a friend. Still interested in hanging out? If you want to hear a real life hack here, do it after you pay him a genuine compliment. No guy will be mad at a woman who likes his shoes or just pointed out how his shirt really brings out his suntan. He'll be riding that high for at least a month, plenty of time to have a frank conversation with him. You might also want to reciprocate gestures of generosity, like buying drinks or meals. That may sound counterintuitive, but the expectation from a date is that the man pays. Among friends, it's expected to reciprocate a favor that has been paid to you. Lastly, the most effective strategy, if you're comfortable with it, is to become his wingman. Romance or sexual conquest is going to be at the forefront of this guy's mind. That's why he's at a party talking to an attractive woman. So you want to be put in the friend zone? Direct his attention to what other women he might be attracted to. Maybe even offer to help him out after you've got enough rapport with him to be sure that he won't just ignore you after he meets someone. Story 62. I'd suggest a firm handshake when you meet them. Nothing conveys friendly vibes and non-sexual intent better than a handshake. Avoid the faint hand grasp. Make it a solid shake. Practice with your dad. It's also useful in professional environments. It might be helpful in reframing the conversation. Story 63. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but if you are at least a mildly attractive young woman and are slightly more cordial than a bucket of scorpions, most men will assume you are flirting. Story 64. I don't believe that guys can be friends with girls. If you're a single guy, you're probably going to try to pursue a romantic relationship. If you're taken, then what's the point of being friends with another girl? I think that's disrespectful towards your girlfriend or wife and only leads to her being insecure and having a difficult time trusting you. I know there are many people who will disagree with everything I said and are sure that guys and girls can be friends. It's just my experience that most of the time such friendships never last and only lead to hearts and feelings being broken. If you're a girl and a guy is hitting on you, then either you're interested as well or you tell him that you're not. That guy doesn't want to be friends with you no matter how hard you try. Story 65. I have the opposite problem. Every girl I talk to or meet thinks I am trying to hit on them. I don't even like them. I'm just trying to be nice to them. Then it gets complicated. Story 66. I found that, in general, it's assumed I'm flirting if I'm being nice, smiling, chatting, and generally asking how someone is. I think it's uncommon enough that men just assume it means I'm interested. I've started being very careful to phrase things as we, to imply that I am doing everything with someone else, even though it may not be a significant other. Story 67. Well, if you tell him that you just want to be friends with him in the beginning, there is nothing else you can do. Story 68. I've discussed this with my partner a few times because I find that I was just like this. His explanation was that men don't often receive attention from women, so when they do, it's exhilarating, and they become infatuated with the attention. Story 69. Others have said this, and I would say that it's going to be case by case. In your example, just tell the person in your direct messages, "Hey, it was great to chat. Just so you know, I'm not dating so I can concentrate on my studies. Happy to keep chatting, but I just want to clear the air in case." Even after you say that, someone might still keep trying, hoping they might change your mind. He'll probably tell you that he wasn't even thinking about that. If he's someone worth being friends with, you may have to be absolute with him. I know you're hoping that I'll change my mind about the dating thing. I love that you think of me that way, but as I said earlier, I'm not dating. I'm feeling pressure from you, even though you think you're taking it easy. If you keep subtly trying to convince me to date, I don't know if we can be friends. Story 70. The moment you feel they're being a little too eager, just say, hey, I might be detecting some flirting here. I really value friends, including men, but if we keep chatting, please keep it as a one of the guys tone. You seem chill, so if you can handle that boundary forever, then I'm game to catch up occasionally. It's not that you wouldn't be a good guy for someone. I'm just not that someone. Cool. There will be 3 outcomes for most of the next events. They treat you the same as the other guys in their life, but will always be attracted to you in some way. This isn't a problem as long as they have a normal amount of self-confidence and self-control. They will never look at you the same way again, even though they think you're unaware. They will get upset because they're insecure and can't handle rejection, and they'll tell you that you're self-flattering. You'll automatically justify your boundary. They'll pretend to go along with it, thinking someday they can climb out of the friend zone. You'll probably be able to tell. If you detect it again, say, hey, I'm not really comfortable because I set that one of the guy's boundary, but I feel like you'll still push. If someone sets that boundary, you need to either accept it forever or not stay in their life. Then block them depending on how they react. At your age, the secure ones are going to be the most valuable to keep in your life. They get it. Story 71. Don't talk to guys you aren't interested in. You're obviously a rare beauty with a good personality and are going to attract guys like crazy. It's a curse, but at least you won't have to work. Story 72. Every man in this world, hopefully except your family, has a dirty mind and would sleep with you if he could. I've stopped being naive and trusting everyone at the age of 23. You could avoid this by having short conversations. Talking with him for a longer period could be interpreted as flirting. Also, hanging out with guys who have a girlfriend could work. Story 73. Males typically receive little attention and must attempt with many women to succeed even once, so they try with any available option. Story 74. If you're single, you're not unavailable to date, especially not in other people's minds. You're not being interested is what you say to them after they approach you. Unless you want to say, I have a boyfriend every time you make conversation with a guy or say, I'm not interested in you. I'd say you just have to get used to it. People will show interest if they're interested in you. That's the way of the world. Story 75. 1. There is definitely a body language shift that says, don't even start. I can't describe it, though. It's friendly but all business. 2. Call out flirty behavior the first time with something like, enough about my eyes. Many people will try an ambiguous compliment to see how it goes before they increase their efforts. 3. Depending on where you live, overtly religious symbols can help. I saw a young woman yesterday wearing a t-shirt with a cross and virginity rocks on it. 4. Intense eye contact can be interpreted as sexual interest. Unfortunately, so can a lot of things, but avoid things like touch, intense eye contact, and going off with the person to a more private space. 3 other suggestions. Use the buddy system. Even hardcore pickup artist types will get the message if you keep including your female friend in the conversation. More generally, there are some settings where people make an effort to keep them female-friendly. For example, Penny Arcade Expo has rules about harassing cosplayers. It's not a feminist utopia, but it helps. Factual conversations are less flirtatious than free-ranging small talk. Asking someone about how they grow tomatoes is different from chatting about movies. Story 76. Just say you are asexual, but it might be hard to find computer science majors who aren't like this. Also, casually drop hints that you hate it when a guy asks you out. If this doesn't work, act like you already have a boyfriend and are taken. My partner and I met at a tech college where there were 11 guys to every one girl. My partner basically had to cut their hair short and dress in baggy clothes to not get hit on and make male friends. Then one day a mutual friend came over and saw them in shorts and a crop top and wouldn't stop commenting on their outfit. It was like they finally saw them as attractive, and things went downhill very fast with that friend. Story 77. I don't know if that was an exaggeration, but 90% of single men that you meet ask you out. Holy moly. Story 78. Talk about sexual harassment, feminism, or women's issues in your messaging. Laugh about pressing charges on a random man. It'll make platonic switch off any thinking he has and make him fear you quickly. Story 79. I also got my bachelor's in computer science, so I know how difficult it is to maintain relationships as friends and study buddies. It's likely that having the same interests and being approachable leads to others trying to form connections. If you're not interested, be respectful when you let them know you're not interested in dating or relationships right now. Don't expect them to understand indirectly if you don't say something directly about the subject. Be honest, even if it risks being seen as conceited. Then act naturally the next time you see him, as if his asking had no effect on your relationship. The whole hint and find the clue approach drives me crazy, as we often expect men to be vulnerable and ask despite the risk of refusal. Take a lesson from their playbook and be direct and honest in your refusal. If you're only interested in friendship and study partnerships, word will get around. Story 80. You can't because being friendly gives men a chance to try, and I don't blame them. I am very friendly and often flirty on purpose because I love flirting. I think people flirt a lot less today because of various movements and cultural shifts. People are afraid to flirt. I love it. I say no and set boundaries when things get uncomfortable and keep moving. Story 81. Do not show a lot of naked skin. Do not smile or be nice to men. Many people, male and female, think two friends, one male and one female, do not work out. I agree with that, at least not in the same age group. There must be a large age gap, like 30 years. Story 82. This is a tough situation, especially because many women prefer men to make the first move as their personal relationship status changes. There's no objective way for men to know whom to approach and whom not to. I'm going to suggest that culturally we bring back an unambiguous sign of availability like a wedding ring, but not tied to any specific relationship status. Perhaps an availability ring? It's similar to the red light/green light flip cards used at all-you-can-eat Brazilian meat restaurants. Imagine the bold move of keeping that on all the time, and if you meet someone you like, you discreetly take it off in front of them without saying anything. Boom, clear communication. This is mostly in jest. Unfortunately, there's no other solution than directly saying, I'm only friendship material. And even then, some people will convince themselves that your statement doesn't apply to them. Story 83. Quite honestly, this seems like a better question for women than men. I know you are asking what would put us off, but my guess is you are attractive. Honestly, a 20-year-old guy meeting an attractive 19-year-old seems like you need a suit of plate armor, 3 angry pit bulls, and a very large, I have a boyfriend shirt. Even then, results will be mixed. But that's just my opinion. Story 84. It is not about you but about them. If they are interested teens, they could interpret everything as flirting if they have an attraction to you. Just say you are a friend or a person you know and you have no interest in dating them. That's it. No vague signs, as that is frustrating and wastes time. Story 85. Most guys are scared of talking to girls. If you have a conversation with them in their deprived state, they're going to latch on to you. Either have casual chats with guys who talk to everyone and have no problem attracting who they want, or actively show them you're unavailable by mentioning you're doing something with your boyfriend after this event or conversation, in a matter-of-fact way, not saying I have a boyfriend in a judgmental way. Hope that helps. Story 86. If you talk to men, they may interpret it as you being interested. There's generally no concept of a guy just wanting to be friends. If you are somewhat attractive, we often secretly want to be with you. Story 87. There is literally nothing you can do, unfortunately. I work in a male-dominated field, and I never flirt with any of them, only be friendly. It's very often mistaken as flirting. So unless you want to be rude all the time, then you just have to deal with it, unfortunately. I just end up telling them to stop, and it's usually okay. If you find a way, let me know. Story 88. Sorry, but there's nothing you can do if you're a friendly person. A guy who doesn't get attention from girls might interpret every kindness as flirting or might miss obvious signs from girls who like him. A guy who is accustomed to attention will see it as just another woman who likes him. What he does after that is up to him. Some can recognize when women are just being friendly, while others can't. My advice, which you've probably tried before, is to talk to them like you would talk to your parents, but in a more friendly way. Ultimately, it's something you can't control. The other person will interpret it the way he thinks. Your situation might not be what you assume. Maybe he just liked your vibe and wants to try his luck. Story 89. You could say you're already in a relationship or not attracted to men. That being said, as long as the guy accepts no for an answer without being rude about it, maybe cut them some slack. I understand women get approached more than men, and at some point it can be annoying, but it's genuinely hard to find someone you like, and people shouldn't be discouraged from trying. Story 90. If you're single and people find you attractive, they're going to try to express their interest. There's nothing you can really do about it, unfortunately. Just let them down gently, or if they're being rude, reject them clearly. The only things you could do would be to dress like an older woman, present yourself poorly, dye your hair pink or something that suggests activist. But then you'll scare off the guys you might be interested in too. That's a good way to end up alone in middle age. Story 91. I talk to men the same way I talk to women. Most men aren't really looking for that, honestly. Your best bet is to see men as just that, not replacement friends for women. If they're single, they are likely more interested in a girlfriend than another friend. Your way of being unavailable is not getting deep into conversation. Story 92. Talk to him like men talk to men. When you meet him, just nod briefly and say, "What's up, bro?" Don't smile too much. Stand at least 3 feet away from him. Don't face him or lean your head towards him. Both of you can watch something else like a hockey game. Don't ask him personal questions or share personal stories about yourself. Just make small talk and tell jokes. Then he will think of you like he thinks of his friends. Story 93. How you dress, talk, and your intonation all count, combined with your looks. Unfortunately, the more attractive you are naturally, the more you have to temper it down. Some people just have a very attractive smile, and you won't be able to stop men from thinking that your laughter at anything means you're interested in them. Story 94. He's 20. A stiff breeze or tight pants will send his blood supply down south. You'll have better luck getting used to correcting guys. No is a complete sentence. Story 95. You aren't doing anything wrong. I think a lot of these comments show no empathy for why your situation is frustrating. They do accurately assess how the average guy is often unable to differentiate between friendliness and flirting, but it's not your fault that you didn't assume that. I don't want you to think that you can't be friendly to men without them getting the wrong idea, but that will happen sometimes regardless of what you do. Learning how to express boundaries without compromising who you are takes practice, but that will come with time. Don't change the way you act for others, but remember that not everyone in this world has your best interest at heart, regardless of their gender. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.